So good morning, Ronit. Did you check the morning papers this morning?
I always do. I don't check the papers. This is not 1920s. I go to my phone the first thing when I wake up. It's just like it's literally like I open my eyes and I just scroll through news. Just I don't know if other people do that in other countries.
No, a lot of people actually in this country, they wake up and they say Modani lefanecha. They're happy that their soul has returned to them in the morning,
Do
meaning
you say it?
well, it's not mandatory and it's better than waking up every morning and saying fuck. You know?
Is it really like I didn't even know that you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to say it
Listen,
every time you wake up?
it's part of the liturgy. I don't know when it enters the liturgy. It's not a bad thing to, I mean, do I do
I'm
it?
not saying it's bad. I'm just
My
asking
children, if
semantics.
my children are watching this, I do it every morning, but no, I don't do it.
You don't do it. Really? It's just so it's like Hodaya, no? It's like thankful.
Most of Jewish liturgy is just praise, thanks. Yeah, that's basically what it is. It's good. I mean, the thing is that I became prayer was always the hardest thing for me, because I just don't understand it conceptually. And the people who were teaching about prayer also don't understand it at all. And after I started learning David's Psalms, and most of the liturgy is made up of his Psalms, most of it. And when I started studying them and reading them carefully, like a literary text, I always say to people, let's read Psalms like Shakespeare. And they're like, Chaz v'shalom, right? It's like, because Shakespeare, you have to say, lahavdil elef abdilot, Shakespeare and David, because they're so different, right? I mean, not they're different. One is holy, one is not. Um, but I say, let's actually read David like Shakespeare, because people who read Shakespeare really, really want to read the poetry. And David is the greatest poet ever, I think. I mean, Psalms and lyric poetry. In terms of lyric poetry, every psalm is its own linguistic world, it's its own lexicon. It's extraordinary. Anyway, so once I learned how to do that, I started to understand, you know, there's no connection with God in some level. And so the Muslims say, right? The Muslim God is, you don't relate to that Muslim God. And we have part of that. And the way we deal with that is we praise God and we praise him through poetry. And that's how I've started to approach it a little bit more. But when I was taught this, it was just taught as you see it, I think, as this kind of theological burden, and I still feel it sometimes like that. But I relate to it more these days. And since I relate to it more these days, I can make it more my own. So I'm kind of reclaiming parts of the liturgy that I did just by rote. Um,
You
the
had
prayer,
me at Shakespeare. I think that it's a great idea to read the Psalms, like, as you would read Shakespeare, which,
if
anybody who
you
has ever read Shakespeare
the
is
commentaries in the 11th century, that's how they read. This Radak, Rav David Kimchi was Dutch, extraordinary person, universalist, an amazing reader, amazing. So for him, learning, he's called the Radak. So when I started learning him, studying him, I just like, oh. And also David is like, David, and I was feeling, I don't want to over dramatize it, but you start to feel like I'm not connected to any of this at all, right? Because the culture is foreign, especially when I was in Bayit Vagan. And this whole cult of the tzaddik, the whole cult of the tzaddik results in nobody actually being a tzaddik, because the people who are the tzaddikim, the gedolim, are not. And what's even worse is that they appropriate that term for themselves. They're the tzaddikim. And we just watch them from afar and say, wow, they're holy.
who's
And
we?
the rest of the Haredi world, the Haredi
The
world,
Khaledi one.
the
Okay, because
Haredi
I'm
world.
not I'm not there,
No,
right? I'm
yeah,
not
I'm
okay,
saying
okay. Just
no,
just
no,
making sure that
no.
you
I'm
know that
saying
I don't
no,
do
no,
that.
no. But to me, I've understood you. I'm trying to reclaim that language and those words. And when I read David, oh my God! I mean, it's like he would not be admitted to any yeshiva or seminary if he were a woman. The doubts that he expresses, the questions that he asks about humanity, about God. So I said, oh, okay, I can do this. I can be
But,
this.
but isn't that more in Kohelet, where it's very philosophical? No?
No, no. So I'm trying to figure out the differences between these texts, but it is the beginning of
Okay.
interiority, the Psalms. And I think I told you this because I was obsessed when I was teaching, and I still teach the origins of the individual. And I always started with maybe Oedipus, but Augustine, because Augustine is really the first person who has self-consciousness about the individual, and then it goes through Luther and Christopher Marlowe and Shakespeare and Milton. And I thought, wow, I wonder where are the resources for this in the Jewish tradition? And it turns out all of these people, I mean, not Shakespeare and Marlowe, but Luther and Augustine and Calvin, they all have commentaries on Augustine, on David, all of them. It's the most quoted text in the Renaissance. Shakespeare, I think I told you this, he would have heard the entire psalm cycle sung in church every month. So it's like just part of his brain. It's part of his apparatus. So that was my discovery, is that this thing that I had always been so interested in, this, where does subjectivity come from? Where does agency come from? Where does the individual come from? And I was always impressed. I thought it started with Augustine. But Augustine has a huge commentary on Tehillim. And every time you read Augustine with footnotes, Tehillim, 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 Tehillim. It's interesting. So I just found that and I'm not just doing like this yeshivish, oh, we invented everything. It is a reality, which I discovered, and that made me also just feel better about who I am as, a doubting, I don't know if doubting or skeptical, just engaged, and in the community that I came from, there was that engagement in terms of just focus, but the curiosity was lacking.
Yeah, it's better not to ask questions and not to go deep.
Well, for people like us, if we don't do that, we die.
Yeah, we wither away.
They
It's
sustain us with questions.
I mean, like my brother is Haredi, and I think for him, he was very confused. I mean, he was searching for, it happened like in his 20s. I think it's like mid-20s, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere along the line. So it's like 20 years, like over 20 years ago. And I think it just, religion's just, like I told you like before, like religion really just provided answers for him, and very like dead end answers where you don't have to search anymore. And that's where, and sometimes I kind of envy that, where he lives in a world where he is relaxed because he knows, or he thinks he knows, everything is as it's supposed to be, because that's what religion gives it. So, I mean, how do I compete? How do we as as a secular society compete with that? I can't compete with that. I'm loaded with like doubts, with insecurities, with anxiety. And I think he, doesn't have that. And I think religion, gives him that. And I think it's just, it just gives him, I don't want to say purpose, but it gives him almost like rituals to hold on to. And so I can understand that. I can understand why it happened to him. I don't agree with it, but I can understand why it happened to him.
I mean, you described him as such a vibrant and when you were younger. And if you describe him as vibrant, it means he was probably as curious and as questioning as you are. So how I'm just asking, in his psyche, how does it work?
I don't think his I don't think it was intellectual. Like,
Hmm,
I don't think he thought, deeply about things. He felt deeply. I don't think he thought deeply. And I think that's like a different
hmm.
course in life, like where you just, he was just, he didn't know, I think he lost his way somewhere. And I think he wasn't really well read when he was like he invested in other things. He was, a teenager. He liked, girls, and he liked this, and he liked bands, and he liked, acting, and I think it's just kind of, it's such a volatile world that he just needed anchors. And I think that
But but
really grounded him.
but what
And
about
it
just
just
I mean, but we know the human psyche, and all of that which you described is still inside of him. I mean,
mm, it isn't.
it isn't.
It isn't. I think that when people go through what he went through,
Hmm,
it's almost like I guess you need to do that to just go to that side. He erased everything that he was before. I mean, really, like just consciously he said, whatever I was before,
I find that so tragic. I
but
mean,
didn't you do that as well?
Yeah. No, no. So the Talmud says the Talmud talks about tshuva mi ava, like repentance, tshuva mi ava from love, and tshuva mi yira. And the tshuva
From
miyira
fear.
from fear, and the tshuva miyira is a much lower level, and it's where you say, "I am not that person anymore. I am a different person." And the tshuva miyava is, "I am that same person, but I've transformed who I was into who I am today."
I
That's
think, but I think that people confuse, like I think my brother would say, it came from love, but it actually came from fear. I think he wouldn't be able to actually look back and say, because to him, he really truly like he loves his life, as in he loves,
mm,
who he has become. Like there is just no remorse, there are no questions. There's something,
but
you
that's not
know,
human. How could there be no remorse and no questions?
there's
You
no
feel remorse
remorse.
every 5 seconds. Let's like, when's the last time you didn't feel remorse? You know?
But I think it's he sees it as like if he goes there, it's a secular state of mind. Like he shuts it down completely.
I see.
Like, it's almost like he's conditioned to just, and again, at the end of the day, if he is relaxed and happy and content, then who am I to say that's not the right, path for him? I mean, it isn't. I am saying it. But, for him, I guess I would like that. I would like to just be,
You wouldn't, but
when
you
before I
can't
go
do
to
it.
sleep,
Yeah,
just
I
be
would like to
this
be an
like,
automaton also. I mean, it's absurd.
he's just he has 5 children.
Leonha.
Yeah, but they're very, it's just like his wife is, he married somebody who's Haredit. So he married somebody who was, well, actually they were religious, and then they like, I don't know if people know that there are levels, it's really funny how, people from the outside think that, there's only one type of Jew in Israel. And it's just so ridiculous to me. It's like when I came to America, to me, Christians was just like, I was very young. I was like, there's just one type of Christians. And then when I realized that they're a Baptist and they're Catholics, I was just like, my mind was like, what? Why? And then you realize that, it just,
Oh,
it's
sure.
it's
Yeah.
the way it is. And I think it's the same thing with there's so many um zramim, which are, it's just like there is the people who, so my brother's wife used to be religious, and then the whole family became much more religious. They went into being
Oh.
Haredis, and that's what they are now. So he married into that, and I think
Be-
it's not
Because he
very
because
common.
because he could not, well, somebody like your brother could not get into the Haredi world if the family were normative. I mean,
Right, if they were just
I used to live
Haredi
I used to
from
live next door
birth.
to a guy, and the guy became like this crazy Haredi guy when we were not. And he married, but the girl he married had a slight imperfection in one of her fingers, and that was seen as a moon. So she got to marry her, right?
Yes, that just yes, that's just insane to
It
me.
it
That
it
is just
it
insane
is,
to
and
me.
but going back to I mean, one of the interesting things about what you're saying is that there are so many different kinds of Haredi Jews, so many,
Yeah.
and they hate each other, so many. I mean,
And can we talk about, like their attire, which is so fascinating as well,
Mm.
because, it's like the kippahs, for example, the yarmulkes, like it's people don't understand that there are different sizes, right? And they're a different material. And some of them are knitted, and that means that you are connected to a certain group of religious people, and
Well,
some of them are just like
let's slow
okay.
down. There's the kippah struga, the knit kippah, has many different. I mean, that itself has
So
so
within
many
it, there are
variations.
many.
Oh, of course.
Wait, and let me ask a question. Does that like do colors mean something, or the
No.
design of the kippah? No.
So where the semiotics of the kippah, well, let's stay away from the black ones. Although, my son went to Mea Sharm to buy a kippah where they have many, many kippot stores and many, many kinds. And he came back and said they didn't have any because they didn't exactly have the exact kind of black kippah. There's felt, there's cotton, there's with a rim on the outside, there's without a rim, right? There's this. I mean, this I don't think my son would ever wear.
But
Um,
is as so and each one is indication of something? Like if you have, why couldn't he just buy a black
oh
kippah?
yeah,
Like
so that
no,
no, he would have bought anything he would have bought would have been black. But I think in certain yeshiva circles, having the seret, is that what it's called? The ribbon around whatever the thing on the side.
yes.
I don't even know that, but let's do kippah sruga, the knit kippot. So the normative ones, like the white ones, that's basically datilumi. They're referred to
The white ones? I
like the
no,
white
white
ones, like
ones
with
are
the
for the
blue, white
no, aren't the white one? Oh, the white with the blue, because the
with the
white
blue.
ones
No,
are
not
the
Ben
ones
here.
that my dad has in his drawer, and those are the
Ah,
ones that you steal from a Bet Knesset for
right.
like when people come in, like guests, and you give it to
See,
them,
but
and it
those are
feels like
like a
they're from
kind of
carton.
satiny plastic thing. You get them at the Kotel
Yes,
bookstore,
they're just
but they're
they
black at
look
the
like
Kotel.
in hotels. You can get them at hotels as well.
Right.
And
No,
they're like
yeah, we're not talking about
triangly. Okay.
we're not talking about stolen kippot. Oh, but let's since we're having a
It's
kippot.
not stolen. My dad didn't steal. He took, maybe without permission,
That's what
but
my
he
wife does with
took.
shampoo at the hotels, right? But
Right. I mean,
that's a gift.
it's
That's a
like
gift.
you grab, and there's like my dad, like my parents have this like a drawer where all the kippahs are,
Um,
for, us secular people who come in
you
like for holidays and you have
his
to. So
family
it's either that or a napkin. So, and it's always
napkin.
like it always makes us really like laugh because, it when Elad, my husband, puts a kippah on, it looks so unnatural that we just kind of look at him like he's a monkey. We're just like, whoa, look at that. But yeah, and
Do
they're
you
like
want to
the
do
real.
you
Okay,
want to
so
go
those are
into
not the ones.
what? But in that genre, since we're talking about stolen things, how about the doilies that women put on in to go to a shul? You never seen that? It's like as a siman that they're covering their hair.
I don't, but do you have to put like
No,
I don't
I don't know what that comes out of. It's like
no,
if you
but if you go to a shul, do you have to, as a woman, do I have to put on like
no.
no? I can just be, I don't remember the last time I was at a synagogue,
No,
so I
no.
don't
Listen, I'm
remember.
married to women. People don't cover their hair. But as far as the nitki
But you have to come in with a skirt, right? You do have to, or
in my
I don't
neighborhood,
know.
in a Haredi neighborhood, if you came in with pants, people would look. In my neighborhood now, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares? Oh, okay.
Nobody,
Okay.
nobody. But listen, I just want to go back to the kippus sruga. So the ones that are normally designed with a color in the most of it, and then surrounded by a circle of pattern. And if it's white, like the rector of the university, who's like typical Mizrahi kippah sruga datilumi, but strong. So he's going to wear the white one. Then you see ones with
Interesting.
the white one with the colors around it. Then you see ones that are not white, that's already a little bit pushing back. Then a lot of Bar Ilan professors, they have like a very designed one. You see it's very kind of not ornate, but lots of detail, and the pattern is throughout the whole kippah. So that's already, you could be center or center left with that. That kind of kippah. Like is usually a signal, I'm not
But
that.
it's the same size, like all of them
Oh,
have the
well,
same size.
and Ronit, I will say in this case, size does matter. So
But isn't it like it depends on how big your head is? No, there's no,
well,
it's like it has to be proportionate to your head. It's just
that's
like if
not
you have a
that.
big head, you need a big kippah. No,
So you could work at a kippah store, but there are ideological concerns as well. For example, the community that I live in now, it's separated into three areas, and the first area, which was bought first, is made up of almost entirely people who are Naftali Bennett followers. And Naftali Bennett has a very small kippah.
no,
So,
I don't know. He
no, well,
does.
you know that now.
Really? Is he
There's a
bald?
guy, he's bald. He's
He's
bald, yeah.
bald. Okay.
And there's a guy in my block. I
How
mean,
does it stay on?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's Velcro. Who knows?
Interesting. Okay,
There's a guy in my
I'll
block
look
who has
into
a
that.
kippah that's the size of like a quarter. I'm like, dude,
Nah, nah.
I'm surprised by how small the kippahs are here.
Well,
Somebody
maybe his head is big. I'm telling you, it's all about the
relative
proportions. But
size,
okay, so Naftali Bennett, so he has
right?
a small kippah, and
Right.
that's how you can tell that these are centrist. These are people who
Well,
are.
Bennett people, centrist right. Bennett is, he's Choser B'Tshuva. He was,
Is
part of.
he?
Well, he was mafdal and he was Bayit
No,
Yehudi.
but I think his parents are religious.
No, I just meant that he went from being Mafdal, the National Religious Party, and Bayit Yehudi, which was like this religious party. And now he understands, I think, Choser B'Tshuvah, he understands that it's a diverse nation and you have
But
to
he's
go.
not a Choser B'Tshuva. I think
I
you're
meant
wrong.
just metaphorically, that's all.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I,
So that's one part. Okay, so those are, and his kippah is what color?
I don't know. I don't know.
I wasn't aware that
They're
colors
colorful. They're
matter.
colorful. They're not white. They're not white. They're not white. No, but no,
They're
but
not
there's
white.
semiotics, and we skipped over the Haredi thing. There's a whole thing there, of course, and with hats as well. Do you know that there's some Hasidim and they have, very, very long peyot. When they leave Jerusalem, they put them under their hats. They only show
Why?
their peyot when they're in Jerusalem. Why?
Why?
I don't know. But there's like tons of stuff like this. And of course, hats, the easiest one to recognize is the Chabad hat because the Rebbe wore a certain kind of hat, a certain kind of borsalino. We, by the way, the Haredim in Israel support the Italian hat industry. There's a certain kind of borsalino which the hat
Really?
is bent down, the whatever that's called, and every Chabad person wears that. I mean, that's the most obvious. Then there are different kinds of hats that your Shalmim wear. Different kinds of, there's the shtreimel that goes around, there's the spodik that goes up. All of these mean things.
When you have a hat, when you wear a hat, do
Yeah.
you have to wear a kippah underneath as well? Or is that instead of a hat? The hat
I
instead
don't
of
think
the
that
kippah?
I don't. I'm sure people would say you have to, but no. I mean, then we're gonna do it with the women on another time. Then there are women who wear the wig and a hat. That's the great part. These are
What
like
hat? Women wear hats? I
they
thought they
wear
wore
like they wear the
like a
shadel, they wear a wig, and
right, right.
and among some Hasidim, they wear hats on top of the wig, like a little leopard skin pill hat, very frequently.
Like yeah, like Jackie O.
Yes, exactly. And like the Bob Dylan song, leopard
Right.
skin, pill hill,
Yes,
whatever
yes.
that. So that's also, there's tons to say about that.
And let's get back
The
to the
kippot.
knit cap. Yeah, the
Yeah.
knit kippot. So there is the white, and then there's the ones, the Americans always have like interesting kippots. Like the Americans, I mean, I think it's just a certain type of, but they have like basketball, like someone that was just is that like sacrilegious?
Yeah, I
Do
mean, to
people,
me, to me, that's
like where it's like I don't
I'm a
know,
Mets fan, but I don't think I would
like
never.
a baseball, right? Like a design
Right.
of a
It's not only
baseball.
American, it's like recent Olim. Some guy made a bar mitzvah in my community here, and everybody was wearing Pittsburgh Steelers kippot. I'm like, dude, what is this?
Wait, and another thing, can you have something written on your kippah? Like
Um,
Mr. Al Chai, right? Like something
sure.
like I think I
Or
saw, but
sure.
that's
There are
acceptable?
Trump kippot. But these are obviously,
Really?
yeah.
If I have never seen one.
There are stealth bomber mezuzot that they sell now. We're putting up mezuzahs in our family. So it looks like a stealth bomber. But as we're talking about kippot, this is a kippot with a story. I just found this. We're unpacking here.
So it's a blue kippah,
It is a blue
which is
kippah.
huge.
Huge.
So the one that
And,
you're wearing now. Okay.
right, this one over here. This was made for my pidyon haben. We talked about this, no?
Okay. But but we haven't talked about it now, like
Right.
here.
So after 30 days, if the firstborn is a son, after 30 days, the son is redeemed from the Kohen. So you rent a Kohen. The Kohen usually comes with his own silver dollars. That's like the prerequisite. They come with their own kit. And they give you that. There's this whole fictional thing. They give it to you, and then you pay him with these silver coins, and that redeems the firstborn because when we went out of Egypt, all of the firstborn were, as it were,
Good.
given to God, and therefore we have to redeem him from the service of God. That's naturally what he would be doing, and we pay the Kohen. So my grandfather, my mother's father, I think he had these made. It no longer says, it used to say, the Pidyon Haben of me. And there were more than one of them. But this is my father's, this one. And I'm thankful that I saved it. And I kind of wear it for what I call like Kairos events, which is a Greek term for the fullness of
But
time.
it looks like it's from like the 19th century. Like to me, when I see it through my
Yeah.
secular eyes,
Yeah.
It's really big. It's almost like velvety, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it like
yeah.
velvet?
But
Okay.
yeah,
And it looks like something from like a shtetl in I don't know, in
I,
Austria or something. It just,
I,
to me,
I
that's
think
what it just
I think much less that, my
looks like.
grandfather was a jeweler. He made things. My great grandfather was also a jeweler. My grandfather made a huge jewelry business, and every place in his house, he took things and made stuff. I have stuff he made for my bar mitzvah watches with diamonds and what are the blue stones, and he had just jewels and tchotchkes all over the house. So I think it's much more an American 60s or 70s thing. He never wore a kippah in public, ever.
Really?
This was just for the Pidyon Haben. So I
Didn't you
wear
say that when you were in New York the last time, you
yeah.
didn't like you had a hat on, like you wouldn't wear, I mean,
I,
I think,
I didn't even
right?
have a hat on. I took my kippah. Whatever.
That's
Some people are like
horrible.
you have to wear a baseball cap. Listen, most of the time in New York you feel safe. But on the other hand, it's like everything else. Like people look at Israel and say, how you live there? And it's a good question. But in New York, it's mostly safe. It's just if you get on the wrong train, if you meet the wrong people, and you never know anymore. I don't know. I have students from my creative writing class, and I've been speaking to all of them, and many of them are traveling to Europe, and they're seasoned travelers, many of them, but they're worried now.
Yeah, it's just, I remember um I was like 4 months after October 7th, I was we took a vacation to Paris, and my daughter's bat mitzvah. That's the tradition. It's where, I mean, it is what it is. So we took her, and I just remember being in the metro, in their subways, and there was, and we felt overwhelmed there. Like we didn't speak in Hebrew. We really tried not to just come off as Israeli. I just it was it we were fearful. I mean, it was just like really, like we had this conversation. I had this conversation with my kids. I was just like, try not to speak in Hebrew. Just, just be focused on who's around you, whatever. And then I saw this young man, sitting, and at the subway, and he had a kippah, and it says on the kippah, Am Yisrael Chai. And I just remember just being almost grateful. Like I wanted to go up to him and just say, and just high five him. I did. I don't know if they're allowed to touch women. I think they're not. I'm
So
not
high five.
sure.
That's high fives.
High,
It's a machlok.
is it? I don't know. Like it took my brother 15 years to say it's okay that his sisters
And
can
you're a
say.
sister.
Yeah, and I'm his sister, so I don't know. But to me, it was just like I was so appreciative of that courage that that young man, it's like you're saying you took, and but it's almost like saying, you know what, it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of courage in that. And I felt, I remember I just remember that moment when I looked, and he didn't look at us, or he didn't know that we were Israelis at, at the train station, but like I looked at him, and I was just like, it made me, there was like, I was, great, I don't know. It was just, so I mean, a small thing, it's a religious thing, but to me, it just symbolized much more than it's just like almost like a sisterhood or brotherhood, or, you know, we're not going to cower. So that was,
But that was four
that's why
months
it kind
ago.
of hurt
But that, but that was
when you told me that you're not
yeah.
with I was just like, but maybe you can give courage to somebody else, you know what I mean? That sees, you're not, and I mean, I'm not, of course, personal safety, I'm not saying,
Yeah, on rush hour on the train.
and I told my kids not to speak Hebrew, so who am I to, to talk? But, so but still, it was just, I just remember it being, and I think it's much more now when you travel abroad and you see Israelis. When I used to travel abroad and see Israelis, I'll be like, ugh, ugh, those,
It's my kids' closest
those
family.
loud people,
Right.
ugh,
Right.
I'm not like them. I'm civilized, whatever. And now when I see Israelis, I smile, I'm like, yeah, because we kind of, it's almost like we have this, like,
Sure, I do it all
I
the time. I
understand
always
what
talk
they're
to
going
Israelis.
through.
I
They
always talk to
understand what
Israelis.
I'm going through.
Yeah.
There is a bonding experience into just being, we just feel like, ostracized. We feel like,
Mm,
we're at this moment, the world just hates us. And there is just this thing where you're just, even if you see somebody and you're just like, yeah,
mm.
we understand each other,
Yeah,
even if you
I
feel
mean,
that
but the
way.
world. So but that was 4 months ago, and
What
now
form?
you said that was whatever you described was a while ago. And
Hmm.
and now in the situation we're in now, I think the worst thing about the situation we're in now is that we're starting to believe the bad things that people say about us. Meaning,
Um,
we know that things are it's not Disneyland in Gaza. We know that. We don't trust our government at
and
all.
it's hard, and it's more than that. It's horrible what's happening in Gaza. It is. It's
Oh,
horrible.
okay. Yeah, it's horrible what's happening in Gaza, but it does seem, and this relates back to our broadcast with on and on the radio last week, when our South African host said he doesn't believe any of it. And he doesn't believe any of it because that's all he gets. And it's like here we don't get both sides of the story, for sure. We get much more of our side of the story than their side of the story. But with that said, you know, Howard Feldman, the radio host, is just like, this is just a torrent of anti-Semitism. And it doesn't make sense as anything else but that. That's what it has to be. So, and I just said, we don't have no idea what's happening. We don't know what's happening. And that image on the front page of the New York Times,
Which they retracted
it
today.
makes no difference.
No, did you read about this? They retracted. They put and they said that it's the starving boy. Horrible, horrifying pictures. It's actually somebody. It's a child that is being treated in Italy, I think, and he has a disease. So that's why. So I'm not saying that there
And many of
aren't
the, and
children
many
really suffering back there, but
for
I
sure,
just
wait,
that
wait. And many of
particular.
the pictures have, again, we're talking the suffering we're sure of, but many of the pictures that we've seen have been recycled from other places, from other times, places.
Right, but it's still stop the war, enough of the
Oh,
war, end
oh,
the
okay.
war, enough. I mean, this
Yeah,
is this is
I mean,
just
it's funny
me
because
talking.
I talked to 16 people yesterday, students, faculty, everybody said the same thing. The same thing. Despair, fatigue. People, a young woman, a former student of mine, she said her friends are in the army and they're frustrated because it's so obviously political. They just want to finish it. Meaning, from their
Right.
point of view, there is a possibility of finishing it, and that's not what we're doing. Right. So everybody is
Yeah.
like, and
Enough.
it's and a lot of people are really angry, but I think a lot of it is just fatigue. We're just tired. And I think part of the danger of it is we start to believe all of the bad things that people are saying about us. And this is the problem with we both agree on the problems with the right. They're crazy maniacs. But problems on the left is that they're so in tune to the stories that other people are telling about us that they have internalized that. And that's why people on the right, religious people especially, are like so adamant against them. It's like, we're Am Yisrael. It's a very simplistic argument. I'm not saying that people on the right are right either, but it's just like, how can you say that about Am Yisrael? We believe in ourselves. And I think the left is painting themselves into a corner. They're academics who are signing petitions now telling soldiers and anybody involved in the operation in Gaza to disobey orders. And I'm like, dude, you want to make yourself more irrelevant? And many people who I said this to said, I would do that also. And I'm fine, do it, but not as an academic. You're claiming your expertise. You're an English professor. You teach, you teach psychology, and you're going to tell kids not to follow orders. You're not going to jail, right? It's just crazy. Anyway, so to me, that's just we have to remember who we are, not in that ideological way, but just like I don't know what you and I try to do every single day with writing on the wall. Just tell the story in its complexity.
Yeah.